Since ancient times, humans used to tell each other stories that could represent idealizations of morality and or romanticize real-life events. Stories that taught, stories that made us wonder. Their influence on culture has always been observable, and there's the point where people would start to make their own stories. This arrived to the point where religions and myths were involved. So like, if we have the Sumerian myth of a great flood, with added instruction on how to build your own ark, with a moral that unionization can be a solution to despotic leaders, you can imagine that, of course, it influenced other myths, from monotheistic religions, for example. Here, today, I'm not to go into mythological conspiracy theories on how legends from the whole world have common themes and recurrencies. What I'm more interested in talking about here is how this developed to this day, and how media can influence other media, and how it can do so more or less perceivably. There are different gradations on how much of a stretch an influence can be considered when the work that it's influencing has had a big influence overall. Like, as an example, if I state that the TV serial Twin Peaks influenced the film Sleepy Hollow, you could kind of see some common elements. And if I compare it to the videojuego Deadly Premonitions, you could say it's borderline to a legal inquiry. But finally, if I were to compare the 1987 film The Red Spectacles to the 1984 film Once Upon a Time in America, some of you might be looking for the closest mental health support facility in my general area. But if you look into the theming of the two stories, they do have in fact common ancestors in the noir and nouvelle vague movements. And both stories are stories about coming back to your hometown and seeing it transformed by the passage of time. And all of this was to lead us to our main question for the day. To begin answering this question, we have to go back in time. In the year 1938, on the day of the 30th of October at 8 p.m, the Columbia Broadcasting System aired a radio adaptation of War of the Worlds read by Orson Welles. Allegedly, this radio program caused a panic with people that thought the broadcast was real, but it's kind of disputed by the fact that the radio did not have a huge public. In any case, the English alien mythos, which involves a major new force coming out of nowhere to give the British Empire a taste of its own medicine, was, and still is to an extent, very appealing to the first world countries, who liked imagining their own demise. A derivation of a genre, for example, the disaster film, which was very popular in the United States of North America before 9/11, has kind of a similar appeal, which also extends to the kaiju movies with the kaiju and big monkeys. It's no wonder then how this mythos evolved and transformed in one of the contemporary forms of the mythological hero stories I started this video talking about, like the hero comics. And in specific, the Moses, Jesus, Nietzsche immigration allegory, Superman! Coming to Earth to live amongst us, this alien man fights local crime and at times even his own kind to defend Earth from conquest. It was and still is a big success, as it kind of resonates with a lot of people. It's no wonder then that, in turn, this character and narrative was lifted by Dragon Ball, the manga by Akira Toriyama and serialized by Shonen Jump. Initially, Dragon Ball was a semi-episodic series loosely based on the Chinese mythological novel of A Journey to the West and its characters. In particular, it revolved around the Monkey King, Son Wukong, and here in the form of the protagonist Son Goku. As a baseline, Dragon Ball lifts a lot of concepts and storylines from other media, to which an original spin is usually added, and it was mostly written with not a lot of forward planning, as evident by the many interviews and self-evident by how the story progresses. After a time skip, the first sequel to Dragon Ball Z, came out, and its first major arc, the Saiyan arc, is a basic rethread of Superman 2 from 1980, which is more or less like 4 years before the publishing of the point of the story, if that's interesting you. In a sense, Son Goku as a figure is an amalgamation of heroic figures of mythos and old and contemporary, just as Superman was before him and so on. And so on, even in the simplicity of a narrative and the often conflicting information that characterization we're presented in the story of Dragon Ball, they are not so dissimilar of the ancient myths writing style, which is born from different voices, cultures, places and times. The schizophrenic way it's told, it actually kind of fits. Citizen Kane is a film written, directed and interpreted by Orson Welles and released in 1941. It's about a man called Charles Foster Kane, a character who is an amalgamation of what could be called media barons, various forms of tycoons and other kinds of figures that create sort of a crystallization, manifestation of the industrial mentality and figures of the time. A de facto mythological archetype of a character in a way, if you think about it. And subsequent research of reporters about his life, in the attempt of deciphering his last words, which is Rosebud. The film then assumes an almost biographical form, with a journalist going to various old acquaintances of Kane, who start reminiscing of him in their own perspective, and in different points of his life. In the end, the life of Charles Foster Kane is a tale of yet another man corrupted by money and power, who tries to compensate love with fame. He is basically offered to a rich and cold man by his parents, who obey the bidding of him, and is raised by him. He then gains the ability to separate himself from his caretaker to create his mediatic empire. Which, as a little tangent, is also the origin story of Seto Kaiba. Differently from Kane though, Kaiba is able, from Mind Crush, to grow from this original archetypical mold. In the end, the Rosebud he mentioned was his toy sled from when he was a child, and the basic moral of his tale can be read as don't make your life about power, money and success, but love without ownership, and also don't trust rich people. Dragon Ball Super Broly is a 2018 animated martial arts film reintroducing the character Broly in the canon of Dragon Ball, all with various animation styles. The basic plot of the film is as follows. So, exiled from a Saiyan planet Vegeta by King Vegeta because he saw Broly as a threat to the planet Vegeta and the claim of the throne of his son Vegeta, Broly and his father live in the boonies planet Vampa. Then Frieza genocides the planet Vegeta and Dragon Ball Z and Super Heaven. Flash forward to today, and Broly and his father are picked up by the Green Lady and the other guy who works for Frieza. Paragus, which is like Broly's father, I'm gonna call him like that, basically does anything for Frieza. So he basically offers him Broly as to use. Like, a lot happens, and then Broly fights Vegeta and Goku, beats them up, and then he goes berserk when Frieza kills his dad. Goku and Vegeta go away for a bit. Broly like demolishes Frieza for like, I think 2 hours or something like that. Goku and Vegeta fuse, they fight and go in different realities by how hard they fight. They kind of defeat Broly, and the Green Lady saves him before he can just die. At the end of the film, a new status quo is formed, with Broly now living on Vampa with the Green Lady and the other guy, and yeah, that's it. It's actually a good fun film, like, it made me like Dragon Ball. So you may have already noticed in the recaps that there are some basic common elements in the two stories, like how both protagonist stories begin with a parental figure offering them up to some shady rich person who tries to own them. And then part of the narrative is how this child will revolt against them and then slowly or rapidly lose control, becoming like a dark star, evolving into an ever-hungry black hole of rage and or hunger for power. The main difference between these two films, about them the obvious ones related to their different genres, is how the two stories end up in different directions. While Citizen Kane is about the regrets of a lonely man who has not been able to love the ones he cared for, as he only knew love has a hierarchical relation, Dragon Ball Super is about understanding and affirming one's self-identity, and also the Green Lady helps Broly. It is very likely that Kane could have been lived happily if a Green Lady helped him out. As you may have understood, this video's conception is kind of a weirdly structured joke, but like all jokes, it has a meaning behind it. what I wanted to discuss today wasn't only how two films of different time periods, genres and cultures had commonalities, as comparing two things by themselves with no idea behind it doesn't really have a lot of meaning and purpose. What I'm here for is discussing how stories evolved and are reconverted constantly. Just the two films we've been talking about up until now, as I said before, basically derive from amalgamations of figures and archetypes, and themselves transform. The Broly film, for example, is a more nuanced and elegant new version of the old Broly films. And at the same time, Citizen Kane has been rumored for decades to get a remake, which feels useless as you can easily make a new story with these ideas, which, as the way we tell these stories, are always ever evolving. And yeah, this was the video. Hope you liked it. I hope you understand I'm not insane when I made this point. It's a kind of joke, don't worry. And yeah, I'm going to talk about this kind of topic a bit more in the next ones too. I'm going to go more. This was about characters. In the next one, I'm going to go in the story structure. So I hope you interested in that. Yeah, I've been going, you know. So yeah, I'll see you in another time, another place, another world.